Let's do it. At this time, we'll call the November 20th, 2023 Planning Board meeting to order. We have enough for quorum, so if everybody will please stand and go over the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. This time we'll move into item 2A, approval of the meeting minutes from the October 16th, 2023 Planning Board. Has everybody had a chance to review them? If so, do we have any comments, questions, changes, corrections, or motions?
Move they be approved as written.
Got a motion?
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, this time we'll move into public hearings. Public hearings are a time for petitioners to present requests and for the public to state their concerns or voice their opinions in favor or in opposition of these requests. If you wish to speak, please come to the podium, sign in on the sheet, please provide it, and please state your name and address for the record before speaking in regard to the request. All right, this time I need to request recusal from
Okay.
this.
At this time, we need a motion to recuse Andy Petty from discussion and actions for zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment. The Curry Engineering Group, PLLC 6411 Burt Road, PN 06460473332 REZ 2022-07.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Andy.
It's all yours.
Okay. All right, public hearing 4A, zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment, the Curry Engineering Group, PLLC 6411 Burt Road, PN 06460473332 REZ 2022-07. The purpose of this agenda is to consider a request zoning map amendment of a total of 43.8 acres located at 6411 Burt Road from the Wake County R30 zoning district to the town's residential low-density conditional zoning district, RLD/CZD. And the corresponding land use plan amendment for the rural residential classification to single-family neighborhoods classification. Further information will be provided by staff.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Good evening, Board. I am submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official record of the town. First case before you tonight is REZ 2022-07, rezoning at 611 Burt Road from the Wake County R30 zoning district to the town's RLD/CZD zoning district. There is an accompanying land use plan amendment, and this case is also the subject of a subdivision you'll consider later tonight, as well as an annexation under review by the town board. The petitioner, Curry Engineering Group, PLLC, has offered the following use conditions. Only single-family homes and home occupations will be allowed at the site. Additionally, the following site-specific conditions have been offered. 1, maximum density of 2 dwelling units per acre. 2, minimum 10-foot type C perimeter buffer along boundary with Vintage Acres subdivision along full property line with pin 0646152166 and partial property line with pin 0646145796. And I would refer you to the conceptual plan included in your packet. Number 3, existing trees and natural vegetation will be retained on all lots outside of the buildable area where trees are determined to be in good health and will not pose a danger to any structure. Natural vegetation will be undisturbed where it is free of roots, briars, or invasive species, and where it is determined to be an aesthetic benefit to the subdivision. Removal of existing trees or vegetation as part of the grading operations may be completed after the plat is recorded on an individual lot basis and is subject to compliance with the Town of Fuquay-Varina land development ordinances. Number 4, all roadway drainage pipes shall have decorative head walls. All lots shall have decorative head walls for driveway pipes. Head walls shall be concrete with a masonry veneer or stone facade. 5, vinyl siding is not permitted. Vinyl windows, decorative elements, and trim is permitted. Number 6, no unit shall be constructed with an exterior elevation or color palette that is identical to the unit on either side or directly across the street. A varied color palette shall be utilized on homes throughout the subdivision to include a minimum of 3 color families for siding and shall include varied trim, shutter, and accent colors complementing the siding color. Number 7, all homes shall have a 2-car garage at minimum. Garage doors shall contain windows, decorative details, and/or carriage-style adornments. Number 8, each unit shall have a front door with a minimum of 25% glazing, transom, and/or door side lights. Number 9, eaves shall project at least 12 inches from the wall of the structure. Number 10, the visible side of a home on a corner lot facing the public street or rear facade visible from a public right-of-way shall contain at least 2 decorative elements, such as, but not limited to, the following elements: windows, bay window, recessed window, decorative window, trim around the windows, wraparound porch or side porch, enclosed porch, 2 or more building materials, decorative brick or stone, decorative trim, decorative shake, decorative air vents on gables, decorative cornice, column, portico, or balcony. Our recommendation for you tonight is approval of the proposed zoning map amendment and corresponding land use plan amendment as it is reasonable and in the best interest of the public for the following reasons. Although the requested zoning map amendment is not consistent with the 2040 Community Vision Land Use Plan classification of rural residential, the petitioner has opted to request a change to the land use plan to single-family neighborhood, which is compatible with the surrounding properties. The requested zoning district supports the land use plan policy 4.1, manage future growth and development in accordance with the priority infrastructure investment areas map. Number 3, the requested zoning district supports the land use plan policy 7.2, encourage transitional uses and intensities in and around project boundaries. And number 4, the conceptual plan included with the request demonstrates compliance with many of the zoning conditions offered and single-family neighborhood development's goals as described in the 2040 land use plan. I am happy to answer any questions.
Does any of the board members have any questions for staff before you open the public hearing?
No.
If there are no questions or comments, I'd like to open the public hearing at this time. If anyone here wishes to speak in favor of REZ 2022-07. All right, if no one wishes to speak in favor, is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to REZ 2022-07? Y'all making it easy. At this time, I'd like to close the public hearing and bring it back to the board and ask if there are any questions or comments for staff before entering into a motion.
I don't have any.
No.
Okay, do I have a motion to recommend approval of REZ 2022-07 zoning map amendment for 6411 Burt Road from the Wake County R30 zoning district to the residential low density conditional zoning district, and the corresponding land use plan amendment for the rural residential classification to a single family neighborhood classification as it is reasonable and is best interest of the public for reasons identified by staff.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. At this time, I'd like to bring our real chairman back in. All right, Andy.
I'm judging by the crowd that I'm gonna get the hard ones. All right. Public hearing item 4B, zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment, Brian L. Jones, Design Line Studios, PLLC, 213 Southwest Street, pin 0656869838, REZ 2023-09. Purpose of this agenda item is to consider a requested zoning map amendment for a total of 0.112 acres located at 213 Southwest Street from the Residential Medium District, RMD zoning district, to the Downtown Center 2 Conditional Zoning District, DC to CZD. Oh, that's a mouthful. And the corresponding land use plan amendment from Town Center Residential TCR to Downtown DT. Further information provided by staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am entering the agenda abstract and official documents into the record of the town. As Mr. Petty stated, the second case before you tonight is RAZ 2023-09, a rezoning at 213 Southwest Street from the RMD zoning district to the Downtown Center 2 Conditional Zoning District. There is an accompanying land use plan amendment from Town Center Residential to Downtown Center. The petitioner, Design Line Studios, PLLC, has provided a plot plan showing the intended use of the property requested that only townhomes and related accessory uses be allowed at the subject property, and has also offered the following site-specific conditions. Number 1, the project must continue the sidewalk on West Van Street to the corner of West and West Van Street. Number 2, 2 on-street parking spaces will be added on Van Street. 3, each unit will have 2 balconies on West Street. 4, this project must provide an ADA curb cut to meet the town of Fuquay-Varina current standards. Number 5, this project must provide curb and gutter along the property edge adjacent to Vance Street. Number 6, this project must provide a deciduous tree on each property on West Street that meets the town of Fuquay-Varina approved plant list. Number 6, this project will provide concrete driveways for each property to the garage door. Number 8, this project will provide a 10-foot wide patio in the rear of each unit. Number 9, this project will provide a sidewalk to the front door from the driveway. Number 10, this project will coordinate off-site improvements, including storm drain, with the town of Fuquay-Varina Engineering Department, and all off-site improvements will be required to be complete before the first certificate of occupancy is issued. Number 11, building height not to exceed 40 feet. Number 12, each street elevation must have an 8% minimum glass. Number 13, brick will be 46% on West Van Street and 28% on West Street. Number 14, minimum first floor brick non-street elevations. Number 15, materials on the building can be as followed. Vinyl is prohibited. Brick, hardy board siding and panels with hardy trim, metal fascia, glass, metal wood and or vinyl doors and windows, metal, wood and or vinyl railings on balconies. There will be a flat metal roof canopy over each entry supported by the building or metal rods. The main roof will be a flat roof membrane. And our recommendation for you tonight is as follows. Staff recommends approval of the proposed zoning map amendment and corresponding land use plan amendment as it is reasonable and in the best interest of the public for the following reasons. Number 1, although the requested zoning map amendment is not consistent with the 2040s Community Vision Land Use Plan classification of town center residential, the petitioner has opted to request a change of the land use plan to downtown, which is compatible with the proposed and surrounding uses. Number 2, the requested zoning district supports infill development and reinvestment in downtown neighborhoods per the 2040 LUP's Policy 2.1, encourage infill development and redevelopment inside town limits, and Policy 2.5, grow in downtown. Number 3, the requested zoning district supports pedestrian connectivity per the 2040 LUP's Policy 5.2, improve multimodal connectivity throughout the town. And number 4, the requested zoning district is complementary to the residential uses in the general vicinity. I believe there's representatives of the petition here tonight, and I am also happy to answer any questions.
Great, thanks, Alyssa. Anybody have any questions for staff before we move on? No? All right. If there are no questions, this time we would like to open up the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of REZ 2023-09? Please come forward to the podium, sign in, state your name and address for the record. All right. Seeing none in favor, does anyone wish to speak in opposition of REZ 2023-09? All right, come on up. Hi. Just so we're clear on the board, are you in opposition or in favor?
Opposition.
Okay. And state your
Do
name.
I sign in?
Yep, you sign in right there and state your name and address. And
So this was last minute for me coming here, but I live on 211 Southwest Street, which is right beside where they're planning on building these townhouses.
and your name?
Zyra Martinez.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. No problem. It's nervous being up here your first time.
Yeah, I'm nervous.
It's okay.
I'm actually here with my neighbor as well. She's in the back. She lives right across from me. So we live right behind where those other townhouses were built. And, you know, they're beautiful townhouses. I won't say they're anything but on 211 Southwest Street, we feel just adding that extra townhouse on a property that's so small. And from what we were told, it was gonna be 3 extra townhouses. And I don't know if any of y'all have been down towards, you know, Southwest Street and have seen how small those properties are down there. I just don't think that's gonna be beneficial for anyone living in the neighborhood. And from what I've known, no one's planning on selling on that street. Maybe if y'all have heard different. I just think those townhouses are gonna be out of place. And from what my neighbors have told us, no one really wants those houses there. And I mean, that's all I could say.
Okay, well, thank you for coming up.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak in opposition of REZ 2023-09? All right, seeing none, we're going to close the public hearing and bring this back to the board for discussion. Anybody have any questions for staff? Or do we have any motions?
There's no questions. I'll make a motion to recommend approval of REZ 2023-09, a zoning amendment for 213 Southwest Street from residential medium density zoning district to downtown center to conditional zoning district, and the corresponding land use amendment plan for the town center residential to downtown as it is reasonable and in the best interest of the public for reasons identified by staff.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, this time we'll move on to item 4C, zoning map amendment. Judson Smith Capital Match LLC, 498 Longfellow Street, PIN 0657609-402, REZ 2023-13. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider a requested zoning map amendment for a total of 0.17 acres located at 498 Longfellow Street from the residential low-density zoning district to the town center residential TCR zoning district. Further information provided by staff.
Hello again.
Hi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm entering the agenda abstract and official documents into the record of the town. As Mr. Petty stated, the third case before you tonight is REZ 2023-13, a rezoning at 498 Longfellow Street from the RLD zoning district to the TCR zoning district. Petitioner Capital Match LLC has provided a plot plan showing the intended use of the property and has offered the following site-specific conditions. Number 1, decorative front door with transom. Number 2, no vinyl siding on the facade of the home with the exception of trim and windows. Number 3, evergreen bushes to be planted on 3 sides of foundation, front and both sides. Number 4, 3 street trees to be planted. Our recommendation for you tonight is as follows. Staff recommends approval of the proposed zoning map amendment as it is reasonable and in the best interest of the public for the following reasons. Number 1, the requested zoning map amendment is consistent with the 2040 Community Vision Land Use Plan for the designation of town center residential. Number 2, the requested zoning district is complementary to residential uses in the general vicinity. Number 3, the requested zoning district supports infill development and reinvestment in downtown neighborhoods per the 2040 LUP's policy 2.1, encourage infill development and redevelopment inside town limits. Tonight, I believe there are representatives from the petitioner's company, and I am also happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions for staff before we open the public hearing? I think we're good. Thanks. All right, at this time, we will open the public hearing. If there's anyone here that wishes to speak in favor of REZ 2023-13, please come up to the podium, state your name and address, sign in on the sheet.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
So I am Judson Smith of Capital Match, and I'm here to speak in favor of this project. A little over 2 years ago, we successfully pulled off a project less than...
Could you just state your address too? So we
Yeah,
can get that on.
1441 East Broad Street.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt you.
All good. And so we were able to successfully pull off the building of 292 and 296 Bridge Street in this same area. I was able to meet with some families prior to this meeting in the required meeting, and some of the things that came up were transportation with the school traffic passing through that road, that we may be potentially blocking some views there. I think the setbacks that are required handle that issue, seemed to provide plenty of clearance of site there. Another one of the potential issues that were discussed is obviously keeping a clean job site, keeping the cars from blocking neighboring driveways. We were able to successfully do that at the other project and wish to do so at this project as well. Another item that came up in that meeting was that these two townhomes didn't really fit some of the other properties that were down there. And I just want to make it known we've gone out of our way, obviously at an expense, to make sure that we add some extras to this property so that the cosmetics there on the outside are visually pleasing. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks.
Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of REZ 2023-13? All right, we'll move over to the opposition side, and given the audience, people in the audience, if you guys do, just to help us out, if you have a group that has the same concerns and voice the same concerns, if you can like dedicate a spokesperson, that's great. If not, everybody's welcome to come up, just trying to help and be mindful of everybody's time tonight. So if you're speaking in opposition, please come up to the podium, sign in, state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Chris Coleman. Represent the address of 490 Longfellow Street, which is adjacent to this property. There's a lot to consider with this plan, and I think it's important that the board visit the actual property to see how this is all going to be constructed. There's a lot of problems, even with the approval. I heard her read the approval. It's not consistent with the houses in that area. There's no townhouses on that street. That was all single-family homes. My mom's house, I represent my mom who lives in the house. The house was built there in 1959. And my mom was born there, and she was actually married there. My family, we traveled a little bit because my dad was in the Army, and we returned back to 420 Longfellow Street before the address was changed to 490 in 1982. So since that time, I was an adult when I found out that this property wasn't ours. The previous owners, I believe their last name was Stewart. For some reason, they lost the property. It went to auction. A man named Sapp bought the property. And like I said, I was an adult before. I'm 50 years old now, and I was an adult before I realized the property didn't even belong to us. And the reason why is because from 1982 until a month ago, my family has always taken care of this property. We cut the grass. We've had a garden on this property, and it has just always been a part of our family. My brother is back here. Both set of our kids learned to ride their bikes on this property. So as far, it's been part of our household since I was a kid. And as far as the feasibility for it to be built there, it's going to be really too close to my mom's house. I need y'all to go look at the site for yourself. My mom's house is a little bit different from some of the houses that you see normally. We don't have a back door. We have a side door that faces out to Bridge Street. And we have a deck there. Where this house is going to be built, I believe that you can, from our deck, touch this house. Of how close the lines are already. I know when people build properties, it shouldn't impede on anyone else's property that already lives there, but this changes my mom's living situation totally. I mean, even down to the amount of sunlight that's gonna come in, because it's two townhouses that are probably gonna be 2 stories, I believe. This picture here, this is a picture that my mom's pastor gave to her a while back, and it's a view from her house looking at the church just across the street that we've gone to all of our life. You won't even be able to see this anymore. This changes, it changes the lot from, I live in Raleigh. My house is on the corner lot. I paid a corner premium to be on my lot. So one of the things that Mr. Justin talked about when we met is that it's going to add value. It does not add value to my mom's property at all because there's already a house on the other side that was newly built. There was a house already there. And so now you're going to put this other big house with my mom's house was built there in 1959. Does not add value. If anything, it crowds my mom's property. Even the letter, and I felt a little bit, and I am speaking for the group, so I do realize I'm over time, but I'm speaking for other people who won't come up here, if I'm allowed to continue.
You're good, sir.
All right. One of the things I thought was really presumptuous about the letter, and I want to read this to you. This was from Capital Match. This is the meeting that he was required to have in order to come before the planning meeting. It says, we will be building 2 townhomes on the corner of Longfellow and Bridge Street starting mid to late October. The letter was September the 7th. We believe that this will be a tremendous value to the area, both aesthetically and in terms of property value. As neighbors, you are great. You are all gracious enough to support us in the building of 292 and 296 Bridge Street, just around the corner on 453 Longfellow Street. We promise to deliver a great product and clean workspace throughout. If you have any questions regarding this project, we'll be holding a meeting at the Recreation Center on 9/28/645. He gives the information of the room and all this kind of stuff. So what made me feel a little presumptuous about this whole thing, it was almost like it was a done deal, because he says in this letter that they plan to start building in mid-October. We hadn't even had this meeting yet. And when we showed up to the meeting on 9/28, he wasn't there. I emailed him. He came right over. He said he was coming right over. I guess if you live close enough, you can make it there in time. He came right over. No preparation. The room wasn't ready. And matter of fact, the community center didn't even know it was a meeting there for him because the room was already under use. All of this made me feel like a deal was already made, and I'm not saying that's true, but that's how I felt. It was almost like a deal was already made before we got there. And so, we talked it over, for it to be an interest meeting, I understand that it could be very informal, but to me it was no planning because he wasn't expecting anybody to be there. When we also talked to him, he was under the assumption that my mom was actually selling that property, which is not true. It's cleared up now, but we were never selling that property, so this property being built here was never in our benefit at all. And it's, I'm gonna try to shorten this up. Also, if you look at the property, and when we talk about being consistent with what's going on in the area, the property driveways will be at the stop sign. It's the only structure, even in the new buildings that's there, that's going to be built like this. So it's not consistent with what's going on around there. The cars that pull out of these driveways won't even be able to get straight to be at the stop sign, because that's how close it is to the stop sign. And so I asked that the planning board would at least go there and look at what I'm talking about, because over the 25 years that once it got auctioned off and Mr. Sapp bought it, I called the town on a pretty regular basis. And when I say regular, I'm maybe once a year, because every now and then Mr. Sapp would bring a sign out and try to sell the property. And every time I called the town, I would ask, did something change about the zone? And I would always get the answer that it's not enough room to build a house. It's not enough room to build a house. It's not enough room to build a house. So, and we were kind of under that perception for the 25 years that Mr. Sapp had the property. And so to now, I mean, I have a problem with the RLD, not just they're going to TCR, because RLD is just as bad as TCR. Because there's no way you can put a house there and not change my mom's living. My mom is 77 years old. She's known this property all of her life. Born there, married there, raised families there, raised grandkids there. So I understand that profit has to be made, and everybody wants to make it, but I don't think that it should be made at, put a family that's already in a situation that make their life worse, because it's not going to improve anything about that area, and it's definitely not gonna approve anything about my mom's house. So,
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to.
Yep,
kind of
I'll
wrap
stop
this-
there.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir. I
sir.
appreciate it. Does anyone else wish to speak in opposition? Does anybody else wish to speak in opposition of REZ 2023-13? All right, seeing none, I'm gonna close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for discussion. These are always difficult ones for us to evaluate because, it's always hard when you're rezoning properties that affect other people, but people that own properties have a right to the fair and highest best use of their properties that they are purchasing. Any thoughts from the board on that?
I do have one question for staff. Referring to the letters that are sent out regarding the public hearings and the public meetings, the neighborhood public meetings. I know there's regulations on when those letters have to go out and how far out they have to go and things like that, but does staff review the letters before they're sent out or have any necessary information that should be included in those letters before they're sent by the developers?
Right, so the developers have to have those meetings 25 days before the first public hearing, which is this, and they need to send it out with 10 days' notice. So they have to mail them at least 10 days in advance from that. Other than that, we ask them to send us a copy, so if anyone calls with questions, we can answer them. And they are required to hold this neighborhood meeting after an official submittal has taken place, so the town understands what is being done. We can answer questions, but other than that, we do not review the letters. The neighborhood meeting was had, he was there and he answered questions. And
Okay.
So the fact that the neighborhood meeting was sounds like it was a bit of a mess. We don't really, unfortunately, we can't really govern that. And while that's not the way that you would do development, I mean, I think that's the important thing when you're doing development in the town. And there's a neighborhood meeting requirement. The purpose of the neighborhood meeting is to engage the community and get their concerns and voice those concerns and work through those, is not to check a box. So I think that's definitely something moving forward. If anybody is in this room and doing development, they're not checking a box. It's meant to work this out so that you can talk to your neighbors and understand where they're coming from. Pam, can you talk a little bit about how we determined TCR in this area and what we're seeing from a land use plan perspective down here?
sure.
Because the other thing we have to consider as a board too is you have an open lot that, as it's currently zoned, I'm not sure that you could develop it because one, is not in compliance with an RLD standard. I mean, it's not big enough as it stands alone, nor would it meet the setback requirements of RLD. So we can't really, as a board, sit here and just essentially condemn a piece of property based off of where it sits. So I think it's important for us to understand when somebody purchases a piece of property, what it can be rezoned to and why the land use plan is what it is.
Yeah, so the majority of the Lincoln Heights neighborhood has been designated on the land use plan for Town Center Residential, this TCR zoning district. One of the benefits of Town Center Residential is it has a pretty wide palette of housing options, which for a nice, close to downtown, walkable, it's just that sort of that band outside of downtown. It can be anything from row homes, townhomes, single-family homes. And so this does, townhomes are an option in the TCR zoning district, and these townhomes meet the TCR standards, right? There are specific setbacks and lot size requirements and such. So unfortunately, a single-family house would need to have a 60-foot wide lot, and even the combined lots doesn't equal that 60. So to bring this, right now it's basically a non-conforming lot of record. But to bring it into compliance, you can rezone as the land use plan directs to TCR, and then create 2 townhomes, which again will meet the TCR standards.
Right. And so then when they submit this plot plan, it follows this zoning. So if, say they get down the line, say we approve a rezoning, they're going through, and it's determined that they don't meet site distance requirements or driveways and can't get these 2 driveways in where they want, and they have to modify this plot plan. What's the steps after that point? Does They basically have to come back and get an amendment to this zoning?
Right, so there is a note on this, right down at the bottom, it says, future modifications and additions to this plot plan are permissible as long as they meet the applicable town center residential development standards. So again, if those modifications were required to get a driveway permit or something like that,
Right.
and they still meet all the TCR, luckily TCR has some very high standards for setbacks and lot sizes and things like that. So those modifications will be permissible based on that. Generally speaking, I believe engineering has seen this. Engineering and utilities does give our rezonings a once-over.
Sure.
So I believe they're comfortable. Longfellow Street is a residential street, so it doesn't have necessarily the same restrictions that a larger street would have as far as being near the intersection.
Right.
Are visual impacts looked at by the engineering department or planning staff when looking at this, if changing the visual aspect of an area is impacted? Is
So-
that something that we look at in a rezoning or land use change?
So visual impacts as far as views from another residence? No, I don't believe so, just being that, property owners have a right to develop the property.
Highest and best use. Have any more questions for staff? Not, do we have any motions?
I'll recommend we approve the RAZ 2023-13 zoning map amendment of 498 Longfellow Street from residential low district zoning district to the town center residential zoning district. The proposed amendment is consistent with the 2040 community vision land use plan and reasonable and in best interest of the public for reasons identified by staff.
I have a motion, I have a second. If we don't have a second, I'll entertain a different motion.
This is a tough one for me.
It is tough, I agree. I'm kinda glad I'm the chair and I don't get to make motions on these. It's kinda good. It is tough.
This is a tough one. When I think about the visual impacts that can occur with this, plus just looking at this drawing and the driveways and how close it is to the intersections, I'm just thinking about safety concerns there.
It's a tough one because on one hand, if you don't allow this, we're doing two things as a board. One, we're not really, I don't want to say abiding by, but we're not really listening to our land use plan, which we've all been a part of, and does make some sense, and all the properties down here are here. And you're essentially, basically, if you're not approving that, you're basically saying it shouldn't be developed. And that's tough because somebody owns this property and they have a right to the highest and best use. But on the flip side, at what point does development trump impacting neighbors? And I guess at a board, that's what we have to decide, is whether we feel like the land use plan and those adopted are more important or preserving aesthetics of neighbors. It's a hard one. But we do have a motion on the board, and we haven't had a second yet. So I'm going to go around and see if anybody wants a second. If not, we're going to entertain a different motion. Is anybody wanting to second this motion at this point in time?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Before we vote, any more discussion? It's a tough one. I think you just have to decide where it is you see as far as.
Well, in making the motion, Andy, I understand the pain completely,
Sure.
but you've got a property owner, you're taking their rights away when they've met the criteria.
Sure. I completely get it.
And are we gonna do that, or are we gonna go by our rules?
We have a book, so to speak, to follow, and that's, it's tough. This is a tough one.
It is tough. It's a matter of whether we're following our rules, whether every property deserves to be developed. Everybody is entitled to highest and best use to their property. And some of this stuff, especially in these areas, is gonna go through some changes for the land use plan to start to make a lot of sense. So, any thoughts on this side? I guess better yet.
The land use plan I get, you know, it's walkable, it's close to downtown. Was that developed looking at every single property individually or an area?
I think the answer to that's an area. I mean, staff could help us with that, but I mean, if we had to look at every individual property and doing a land use plan, we'd probably still be discussing land use plan amendments here at this point.
Exactly.
I guess the other question to ask is if the adjacent property owners, and this is just more of a question for the board, if the adjacent property owner is close to that property line and it's RLD, is it in compliance with the current setbacks that are set forth? So are we punishing another property for something else that the adjacent property is not in compliance either? And I think that's fair to state too, right? So I guess the question is everybody ready to vote?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have a motion to approve with a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
All right. 4-1, motion carries. That one was a tough one. All right, we will move out of the public hearing phase and move into the other business items. And at this time, I'm gonna ask for recusal again.
Leaving again?
I move we recuse the chair from item 5A.
Second.
All right.
All right, it's all yours, Jay.
Okay, preliminary subdivision plat, Willow Bluff subdivision, SUB PR 2023/01. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider a preliminary subdivision plat submitted by Curry Engineering Group PLLC to the William Bluffs subdivision located at 6411 Burt Road. Further information will be provided by staff.
Evening, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, and Andy. I'm submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official record of the town. So this is the subdivision that we were speaking of earlier at our first rezoning. So contingent on the approval of REZ 2022-07, as well as annexation 2023-02, the submitted preliminary plat William Bluff subdivision is located at 6411 Burt Road on 42.14 acres in the residential low-density conditional zoning district. The preliminary subdivision plat proposes 58 residential lots. The minimum lot size permitted is 14,500 square feet, and the minimum lot size provided is 14,508 square feet, with an average lot size of 18,479 square feet. The zoning conditions limit the maximum density to 2 dwelling units per acre, and the proposed density is 1.38 dwelling units per acre. There is 5% or 2.11 acres of common green required and 2.19 acres of common green provided, in addition to the 11.9 acres of total open space. Staff makes the recommendation to recommend approval of the William Bluff preliminary subdivision plat sub PR 2023-01 as presented and recommended. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, at this time, do the board members have any questions or comments for staff?
No.
Nope. Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion if there are no questions or comments from staff.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Williams Bluff preliminary subdivision plat as presented and recommended by staff.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Andy, I'll let you take over.
I'll take it back. Man. All right. Moving on to item 5B, preliminary subdivision plat, Gold Leaf Crossing subdivision, SUB PR 2023-04. Purpose of this agenda item is to consider a preliminary subdivision plat submitted by Burton Engineering for the Gold Leaf Crossing subdivision located at 1920, 1916, 00, 1844, 1848, 1852 North Main Street, 1505 Ideal Lane, and 1375 North Carolina 42 Highway. Further information provided by staff.
Thank you. I'm going to take this one.
Oh,
I'm
boy.
submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official record of the town. The preliminary subdivision plat proposes infrastructure only for the Gold Leaf Crossing commercial development. Of the 14 lots proposed to be included in the first phase, 9 are designated as commercial lots, 3 will serve as private stormwater management parcels, 1 lot will serve as a sign lot, and 1 lot will be dedicated as a public sewer pump station. 8 parcels are identified for future development, and 2 residual parcels will be created south of the railroad as a result of the boulevard dedication. Central to the development will be the construction of the Wallace Adcock Boulevard, a 100-foot public right-of-way with 4-lane median divided roadway and 10-foot side paths on both sides that will serve to connect US 401 to NC 42 Highway. The suggested motion tonight is to recommend approval of the Gold Leaf Crossing subdivision plat SUB PR 2023-04 as presented and recommended.
All right. Thank you, Pam. Any questions for the staff? A lot of people pretty excited about this one. Seeing some movement. We don't have any questions. We'll entertain a motion.
Motion to recommend approval of the Gold Leaf Crossing subdivision plats SUB-PR-2023-04 as presented and recommended.
Got a motion? We have a
Second.
second and a second. Any other discussion? Not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to item 5C, 2024 Planning Board meeting schedule. Purpose of this agenda item is to consider setting the Planning Board's regular schedule for the 2024 calendar year. Further information provided by staff. And for once, we don't have to vote on the January change.
It's already decided.
It's already decided.
Yes, before you tonight is the suggested planning board meeting schedule for 2024. As Mr. Chair stated, the date for January has already been moved and does not require a motion per the amendment to the planning board bylaws adopted March 2023. So if y'all have any questions, I can answer.
Any questions, concerns, opinions? All right, entertain a motion, I guess.
I'll make a motion to adopt the proposed 2024 meeting schedule for the town of Fuquay-Varina Planning Board.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. I think we can just go straight into the vote on this one. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Got it done.
Item 6A, Planning Staff Report. The purpose of this agenda item is to receive information on the disposition of the Planning Board's recommendations to the Town Board of Commissioners since the October 16th, 2023 Planning Board meeting. Any questions on this one?
Nope.
No. All right, well, Barbara, before your time to shine, I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. It's been a fun one, so.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. We have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.